It's that time of year again on the Cartoon Palooza. Grab a scarf, get a hot cup of cocoa or whatever you do and bundle up, cause I'm gonna be watching a crappy holiday special. I mean, good God, does this happen to be the season for the crappiest holiday specials? I mean, for how awesome Christmas and all the holidays are, you get the crappiest holiday specials to follow with it. Especially when it comes to the story of Christmas Carol. I mean, good God, don't we love beating that dead horse of Christmas past to death? While Dickens wrote the book to serve as a way to understand new Christmas traditions along with the old, it served as a cautionary fable towards respecting your fellow man and how people should find a balance between helping others and yourself. Now what modern audiences take away from it is how we can take the stingiest cheapskate in the world, scare the living crap out of him so that he can appreciate the holidays a little more. It's almost become a habit for marketers and filmmakers to take this neat concept with innocent intentions and abuse it for personal gain. But hey, it's Hollywood, it's like that's not out of the norm. We've seen Scrooge turn into Bill Murray, play with Muppets, eat Honey Nut Cheerios, and have an epic rap battle with Donald Trump. Now you can add today's Creep Fest to the mix, brought to us by Robert Zemeckis and his failed motion capture studio, with the ignorant move of calling it Disney's A Christmas Carol. Yeah, right. This is gonna be the definitive Disney's Christmas Carol, not that other stupid special with, what was it, Mickey rode into something? So how do the folks at Image Movers decide to start this holiday classic we all know and love? Well, it goes pretty well. We see a nice Christmas backdrop along with some festive music, but as soon as the camera moves the classic Disney book brought to life trope, we get a dead guy. Way to set the mood, Zemeckis. As you can tell, the unsettling motion capture, they try to capture realism over being cartoony, much like their first films, The Polar Express and Beowulf. However, there are times when the animation is so obviously made up by the animators, in contrast to the moments they use the actor-specific movements, it's hard to comprehend at times. I'd use the word uncanny, but it's pretty much implied. So as far as the story goes, we know the drill. Ebenezer Scrooge is a bitter humbug whose business partner dies 7 years ago on Christmas Eve. However, rather than simply tell you the character died 7 years ago, they roll the credits, show a scene where Scrooge mugs his bitterly departed, and then has the movie take place 7 years later. What was the reason for that? Other than one plot element that could have been explained with a simple narration, you didn't need to bring us 7 years into the past to see a dead Jacob Marley. It's like if The Lion King began with Mufasa's father telling how he'll get the pride over Scar, and then opening the film with Simba's birth just so that the audience knows Scar has it out for his older brother. I'm pretty sure the audience would have picked that up without the additional scene to bust the film out over another 5 minutes. So as we pointlessly get the actual start of the story, we see Ebenezer Scrooge being a bitter humbug to his nephew as played by the English actor Colin Firth. Our first glance at Bob Cratchit as played by the English actor Gary Oldman, which brings us to the obvious English actor playing Scrooge as...
I don't know what to do. I'm light as a feather.
Oh, it's Jim Carrey. A Canadian. So we discover that Jim Carrey's playing our version of Scrooge, who I think the modeler decided to take his head, make it age 50 years, and give him the body of Jack Skellington. However, in all fairness, Jim Carrey's performance is not that bad. He is one of those actors, I feel, who puts in 120% into every one of his performances, even if the film isn't good. Despite the fact that his accent comes across as convincing as his cover of I Am the Walrus, there are times where you know he's trying his hardest in scenes without having to rely on visual humor. Then you have the moments where he does his traditional manic performance, especially near the end when he makes his inevitable turnaround. Motion capture isn't even that much of an issue, since he's given a good performance through layers of latex in movies like The Mask and The Grinch. And I'm almost certain, even if the motion capture doesn't get all of his motions, it gives the animators a lot of reference to work with. The other actors do pretty good as well, specifically Colin Firth, despite how distracting it is to see how the modeler tried to capture his likeness a little too closely. Scrooge's nephew's character always came across as too naive and wide-eyed for his own good in other adaptations. So it's refreshing to see him take a stance against his bitter uncle versus simply shaking his head, knowingly going, "Oh, Uncle Scrooge, stop it."
But I've always thought of Christmas as a kind, charitable time. The only time when men open their shut-up hearts and think of all people as fellow travellers to the grave and not some other race of creatures bound on other journeys.
Just wait until I show you the audition tape he sent in.
Well, bloody bugger to you, you beastly bastard.
However, if there's a character I'm not crazy about, it's Bob Cratchit. I just feel like the character's portrayed as being so upbeat to the point where he comes across as an idiot. I mean, just look at that stupid grin across his face. He looks like a Mamaluca. Sure, he's got good intentions, but how are we supposed to identify with the guy who looks like a blithering ape? Especially since he's the one vital to Scrooge's catalyst of change. Now we get to the part of the story where Scrooge meets the three ghosts. 2 monster houses in the same studio.
Quit it with the jump scares, okay?
As Scrooge is ready to sleep, it takes Marley like 4 minutes to make an appearance. I know it's supposed to build suspense, but I can't help but think about how much time we could have used making Cratchit a more identifiable character than to focus on jump scares. We finally see his departed business partner Marley in all of his ghostly form to warn him about the other 3 spirits that will come and scare the living crap out of him.
Oh, no, I mean, show him the way.
If he doesn't change his miserly ways. And I'm not exaggerating this. Trust me when I say the jump scares from earlier are not the last. They try to cram in as much terrifying imagery in this film. I'm surprised they couldn't have done the same for the other film Monster House. How can anybody watch this movie with the lights off? So we see our first spirit of Christmas Past who, I swear to God, is simply Jim Carrey's face masked on top of an awkward CG flame.
No, I'm so sorry, I meant nothing by it.
Where we see him take him to his past through a trope that gets abused a lot in this film. What is that trope, you may ask? It's how the virtual camera never stops moving. Even in scenes where 2 characters are talking in silence. I mean, what the hell? Are you scared that you'll bore your audience with good dialogue and plot development? That you need to have the camera pan every few seconds? It's almost as if the filmmakers wanted to make a theme park attraction than an actual film adaptation, since they know there's already a slew of those. In fact, with the constant jump scares and moving camera shots, it's almost as if that's exactly what they're doing. It's almost as if Zemeckis is ashamed of telling a straight story with character development and plot over cheap gimmicks and special effects to distract the viewer into thinking it's a story about sharing goodwill to your fellow man. For example, let's actually see what we learned from Scrooge's past to get an understanding of his character.
Dear brother, I've come to bring you home.
Home, little Fanny?
Yes, home. Father is so much kinder than he used to be.
I guess that means we'll get to know Ebenezer's family with such well-developed characters and personality that make us empathize with.
Oh, alright. That don't happen.
We don't know why he has a damaged relationship with his father. We don't know the turmoil of his marriage. We don't even know how he managed to leave a comfy job at Fezziwigs. There's never really an understanding of this character that would allow us to relate to him, and how he would make the change from a fun-loving kid to a greedy cheapskate. It's simply walking through the motions of what we already know with cheap gimmicks, colors, and kits rather than attempting to show us why he depersonalized himself. If I don't care, then how am I supposed to care later when he does make his turnaround? Well, let's go on to the next scene, where he meets the second spirit of Christmas Present, also played by Jim Carrey. They turn his house into an indoor roller coaster, make Jim Carrey do silly faces, and surprise! Have some jump scares thrown into the mix. The filmmakers really dropped the ball when they introduced the character of Tiny Tim. He gets as much dialogue as Jackie Chan from all 2 Kung Fu Panda movies, and we're expected to feel bad for him. Just because you rely on the audience already knowing what happens to this character from past tellings of this story, it doesn't justify what you do to develop him here. Or lack of developing him here. Especially since it's his possible death that causes Scrooge to change his ways. He doesn't feel like a character in this version. He feels like a prop. A freaking prop. Well, speaking of possible death, time to get the checklist for the third spirit. The Ghost of Christmas Future is another motion capture performance by Carrey. He gets thrown into an amusement park chase scene, and finally, lo and behold, more jump scares. Scrooge learns the importance of changing his ways through means the audience members were expecting rather than understanding as we go through the motions yet again when we see him making the turnaround. Something else worth commenting on is how we see him have dinner with his nephew. However, rather than stopping by Cratchit to give them the prize turkey, we skip to the next day just so we can see him give the promotion to Bob. So that pretty much renders less screen time with the Cratchit family and Tiny Tim. But enough for us to have those important chase scenes that in no way look like cutscenes from a video game from the 2000s.
Well done, Zemeckis. Thanks for making me question what was so good about the story to begin with.
It really says a lot when versions of the story with shorter running times can manage to create more emotion by actually focusing on the substance over style. While Carrie and the other actors try to give a good performance, the dialogue keeps the old Victorian style, and some of the layout choices from some of the scenes do feel neat and appropriate, it doesn't help the fact that this film puts more effort into the visuals rather than understanding its source material and what made it so good in the first place. Especially since the original was an early humanitarian effort to show how we can change the system if more people were shown a different perspective. Instead, it's a standard Hollywood product of its time that tries to throw old hat tricks over actual substance at the audience faces, thinking that it's something new. Look, I can think of a few things to throw back at it, but I'd like to keep this review clean. This comes out to being one of the worst attempts at telling the Christmas Carol that I have seen so far, and demands filmmakers decrease the surplus of the story's population.
Well, there we have it. Another Christmas down, and it really makes me wonder, what is your favorite adaptation of the story A Christmas Carol? It could be a live stage performance, it could be a movie, it could be an animated show, or a special from a TV show. Just pray to God it ain't All Dogs Go to Heaven's Christmas Carol, because that really sucks. And if it happens to be the film that I reviewed today, just comment with the words Bah Humbug. I'll get the message. Now I'm Joey.T.Cartoon.P, wishing you a safe and happy Christmas, and happy Hanukkah or whatever you celebrate. Take care, kids.